Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, this is Dan for Gaming D on Cars. Now, I hope everybody has watched The Tiger King on Netflix during this quarantine. I know I have. Definitely the craziest show I've ever seen. Welcome back to the channel. If you are a returning viewer, if you are new to the channel, you should totally hit that subscribe button to get all the car videos that I do. It's going to be a little tough during these times here with the quarantine and the coronavirus, but we're going to press on. So today what we're going to talk about is about the GEM scores of 5 different cars that I drove this year. Now this year I have driven some really amazing cars, and when I started this channel this is sort of what I envisioned. I drove an all-electric Porsche, a Toyota Supra. Never thought I would get a chance to get behind the wheel of these cars, but I did. So we're going to talk about the GEM score. Now, I don't really put the GEM score at the end of my drive videos anymore just because I don't really ever get many comments about it. I don't think people care. I still like to do it because it's a rating system of the cars I drive, and I like to compare them, over the years and see how they do. So we're going to talk about the GEM score of some amazing cars that I drove this year. So you are looking at my desktop. This is my last video that I did. This is me behind the wheel and camera of my Audi Q5. You should go check out that video. Just posted yesterday. Now, if I'm filming this on Tuesday. You're going to be watching this on Thursday. Next week, I'm going to have a video of a 2013 Porsche Boxster coming out on the channel, so I'm very excited for that. That is the last car that I drove before this whole shit went down. So in the coming weeks, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out something, and you're going to hopefully go experience this with me. So let's get right into it. Okay, so number 5 of the car that I drove this year. This was a 2017 Mazda Miata RF. This car was an absolute blast to drive. Okay, so as far as sound, I gave it a 5. It's an okay sounding, little 4-cylinder. If I keep looking down, I have my cheat sheet right here. Styling, I gave it an 8. I think it's a classically beautiful designed Miata. Performance, I gave it a 6. 155 horsepower. The thing would still move. You could run it through the gears pretty nicely. Price, I gave it a 9. This car was a 2017 with like 20,000 miles. This was $20,000. That is a lot of fun for a car. And I'm doing the top. A lot of fun for $20,000. Comfort, I gave it an 8. I think if I was any taller, I might have been a little bit more compromised, but it was pretty comfortable. Interior, I gave it a 6, a 6-speed manual. Fun, I gave it an 8. I mean, open top, as you can see, open top fun for the Miata RF with a total GEM score of 50, okay, and that puts it in the top 10. Oh wow, my internet's really gonna go out. That puts it in the top 10 of GEM scores. So Mazda Miata RF, 50 points for a GEM score. Alright, so number 4 is the 2020 Toyota Supra that I drove. I was beyond excited to drive this car. Really glad I got a chance to, poke around and get it out on the road. So, as far as sound, I gave it a 7. I think it sounded pretty good. BMW 6-cylinders are okay. I think a 7 is fair. Styling, I gave it a 7. I mean, it's a good-looking car, but the front end is kind of funky. I love the rear end right here with like the fenders, flares. So I think 7 is fair. Performance, I gave it a 7. This car was definitely quick. Razor sharp handling. I really enjoyed driving this car. I think maybe just a tenth more than the Mustang Shelby GT350. Don't get mad at me, just that's my opinion. Price, I gave it a 7. $55,000. It's a lot of car, relatively. I mean, it was fun. Comfort, I gave it an 8. You felt pretty intimate on the inside, so I think it was a very comfortable car. Interior, I gave it a 7. This was it's a typical BMW interior, which is nice. Fun factor, I gave it an 8. Now, this car, total GEM score of 51 points, which puts it in tied for 7th place. Not bad. I loved, everything surrounding this car as far as, the heritage of being a Mach 4, right there. Wow, that's funny. But I really enjoyed this car. Loved it a lot. I was so excited. This sort of started my relationship with Click Lewis, Chevy, Buick, which I will be going back there whenever this whole thing is done. So, Toyota Supra, 51 points out of 70. Alright, so number 3 of this year of 2020 cars I drove was the BMW M6 Grand Coupe. We all know that I love BMWs, and this car with a twin-turbo V8 was quite a performer and very good looking too. So, For sound, I gave it a 7. This had the Dyna exhaust. It was pretty good. Not great, not up in the 8, 9, 10. Styling, I gave it an 8. I think it's an absolutely beautiful car with the swoopy styling, as you can see right there. Performance, I gave it an 8. This is one of the cars that I drove where it was, like I said in the drive video, it was just effortless speed. You could not get this thing to break a sweat. That's BMW's 4.4 liter V8 twin turbo. Just was a blast to drive. Okay, price, I gave it an 8. $50,000 is not that much for a car like this that used to be like $120,000, but not bad. Comfort, I gave it an 8. You know, it was also very comfortable, meaning as well as it being sporty and, you know, sport tuned suspension. Interior, excuse me, I gave it a 7. Nothing too special about it. I love the carbon fiber, but the layout is typical BMW from a couple years ago, which is not a bad thing. Fun factor, I gave it an 8. This car was a blast to drive, very fast, so a total GEM score of 54 points. Now that puts it in the top 5, tied for 5th place on the GEM score. So I love this car. What do you guys think about this car? This is right in my wheelhouse of big BMWs. So that is the BMW M6 Grand Coupe.
Hey everybody, this is Dan for GameD on Cars.
Now, two of the cars that I drove this year is the Ford Mustang Shelby GT350. Everybody knows about this car. It sounds amazing, performed great. So for sound, I gave it a 10. I think it is deserving of a 10. Best American car sound I've ever driven. I think a 10 is fair. Styling, I gave it an 8. I love this car in the sinister all black. With the nice black wheels and just the fins I said in the front right there. I think it's an attractive car. I think it's better looking than the GT500. And there's the pipes right there. Performance, I gave it an 8. This car was super fast, you know, fun to drive, but it's just a heavy car. Obviously, it's a muscle car. By the way, people keep telling me this is not a muscle car, which I think they're wrong. I think the Hellcat and Camaro and this car are muscle cars for the modern age. I know muscle cars were back in the 70s, but also I'm going to be getting a chance to get behind the wheel of a black Camaro ZL1 that this dealer has in the next, whenever this whole shit stops going down. So I'll be very excited to compare that car to this car. So comfort, I gave it a 7. I love the sport seats. They're not the Recaro buckets that I went for a ride in before. Interior, I gave it a 6, which I talked about in the video, that this is sort of the downfall of this Mustang is the interior. I think the materials are okay, but it's missing something. It needs to be a little bit less plastic, and I said I know. People don't buy this car for the interior. Fun factor, I gave it a 9. Just the whole experience with the 6-speed manual and the sound and how fast it was. Now, if the Toyota Supra had a manual, that car would be the best car ever. That car is a automatic, 8-speed automatic, which sort of took away from the fun. If that car was a manual, I would buy that car 1,000 times out of 1,000 over the Supra. But I don't know. If it came down to it, I really don't know which I would choose. So this Mustang has a total GEM score of 56, which is number 3. Only the Stelvio and something coming up was higher than this. So very strong showing for the Mustang Shelby GT350. I love this car. This is definitely not the type of car that I go for, but it's hard to argue the sound and everything that goes with the whole package. So that is the Ford Mustang Shelby GT350. Alright, now if there was any question what the number 1 car would be now, I'll just say it right away. This is the best and greatest overall car that I have ever driven in my entire life. Okay, this is the Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Also the most expensive, which we'll talk about price. So for the Porsche Taycan, now I will give a disclaimer. For the sound, I gave it a 7. Now I know that electric cars do not really have a sound, but this car, and it was hard to come across over the camera, this car had this sort of like futuristic, you know, buzzing. I don't know how to describe it other than it would be like the Jetsons car type sound, but it would just sound like an alien spaceship when you were accelerating and, you know, driving normally. I got to launch this car. That was amazing. So styling, I gave it a 10, and I think it is deserving. This car is beautiful. 1,000 times better looking than a Tesla Model S, which is a decent looking car. This car is just so attractive. Where's the one angle? I just had it. Yes, right there. Look at that. That is beautiful in every way. You know, the LED lights right here, the big huge wheels, and the brakes that are as big as, you know, manhole covers. This car is a beautiful car. So that styling at 10. And a rare back-to-back. Performance, 10, without a doubt. This is the fastest accelerating car I've ever driven. Well, tied with the Tesla Model S. When I was thinking about how much it made me push my body back in my seat, I think it was on par with the Tesla Model S. Both of these cars will go something like 2.5 to 60. I think they've been 2.4, 2.6. Doesn't matter. Fast as hell. So it's amazing that this car is still the #1 car, which I'll tell you in a minute. Price, I gave it a 3. Okay, this car was $210,000, which is a shitload of money, I know, and it is double what a Tesla Model S costs, but I don't care. So it's a 3. I mean, that is really how much this car got dinged on price, and it still is the #1 car of all time that I've driven. Comfort, I gave it a 9. The seats were fantastic. Everything about them was amazing. You could drive this car to California and your butt would be fine. Interior, once again, I gave it a 10. The quality was beautiful here. Yeah, so interior, I gave it a 10. That curved glass screen, the bronze goldish accents, all the screens and the drive mode on the steering wheel there, absolute 10. And I've never given a car 4 10s in one GEMSCORE, so fun factor, absolute 10. Fastest thing I've ever driven, one of the best performing things I've ever driven. Beautiful inside and out. You know, the only ding on this car is that it is so expensive. So a total GEMSCORE of 59 out of 70, even considering it got a 3 on price. So this is a truly special car. This is probably the most expensive, hottest, I guess you could say. I feel like I was one of the first people in Pennsylvania or the East Coast, you know, to do a full review on this car. Loved every second of it. I hope to be going back to the Porsche dealer. I think he said I could do a 911 at one point. I know they just got in some Cayenne coupes that I would love to take a look at. So, #1 car, best car I've ever driven, the Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Alright, so that's going to wrap up my GEMSCORE list of cars that I drove this year. Out of those 5, which one would you pay your money on? The Miata, the Supra, the M6, the Mustang, or the Taycan? I'll take a Taycan, and then I'll take a Miata to have fun on the weekend. So leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about these cars in this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at GamingD on Cars, and I will see you on the next one. See ya.